So let's dive into the first one, rediscover your core values. What do you mean by this? And let's talk about this for a little bit.
Well, core values are guidelines. It's a set of beliefs that we have within ourselves that are going to lead us in certain directions. And for some people, core values may be happiness or love. For some people, it's success and fame, fortune, those kinds of things. For some people, it's just loyalty and honesty and those kinds of things. So various different core values, and we all have all of these core values. The list goes on and on. I mean, my core value assessment that I give to clients is 5 pages long. So there's a lot of core values there, and the way that you have to evaluate your core values based on certain life stages that you're in, certain experiences that you've had, because when we're born and as we're being raised as children, we're having beliefs instilled on us from outside forces, from parents, grandparents, school teachers, and we start to take on those beliefs because at the time we're young and we lack the experience to recognize that those are someone else's truths. They're not necessarily our truths, but because we believe them, we make them that way. And a lot of people hold on to these core values for so long in their life. As their life changes, they're holding on to sets of values that no longer serve them. And when you can realign with your core values, because like I said, core values change. A person may have thought at one particular point in their life that having money is only for evil people who take advantage of the world and attract their money through, twirling their mustaches and everything, then and if they're still holding on to that 40 years later and they're stuck and they're not where they want to be, well, that's because that core value is out of date for you. And whenever you're stuck, it's because most of the time you're trying to move forward with a thought process and a belief process that is anchored way in the past in a place that no longer suits you. And that's where limited beliefs come in. Those are where our limited thinking comes in, the thought processes that hold us back from what it is that we're trying to achieve.
Right, and that's why it's so key to rediscover your core values, and that's why you put it that way of rediscovering, because really what you're doing is you're uncovering what your current core values are and making sure they're still in alignment with where you want to go versus where you were, right?
Absolutely, and it can light a new path to getting there. If your end goal still remains the same, you realign your core values and suddenly you have avenues to reaching that goal that you didn't see before, that you didn't know were there before, because maybe you're okay now with taking this route because this certain core value, you're better aligned with it now than you had been before. So yeah, I mean, and then not only that, but then the decisions and choices that you make that do send you forward, that do help you get to where you want to go, you feel good about them, you feel happy about them because that's you. You're able to make this decision and do these things without a cloud hanging over your head.
Yeah, exactly. And let me interrupt for a second. When we talk about core values, realistically, aren't all of our decisions made, or shouldn't all of our decisions be made by bouncing them against our core values and say that if this decision is in alignment with our core values, it's easy to say yes, and if this decision, if what I'm being asked to do is not in alignment with my core values, I should say no. I mean, isn't that part of the reason why core values are so critically important for people to understand what they are at this point in their life?
Absolutely. Without knowing where your core values are, I mean, all your decisions are going to be made based off of a value that you have somewhere. Whether that value is actually serving you or not depends on your alignment with it. Like I said, sometimes if you're subscribing to a 20-year-old core value because you refuse to change as you enter different life stages or as different experiences happen to you, if you refuse to change that, then you're still thinking from that mode, and you're never going to move forward from that. Then you wind up being caught in this repeat process that's a perpetuating cycle that never stops, and that keeps you stuck. When you can break out of that and you can think and you can see things in a different perspective based off of realigning your core values, like I said before, there opens up all kinds of avenues. There opens up all kinds of opportunities that that will serve you to help you get where you want to go.
That's great. Now I have a question for you. I know your intake form is it's 5 pages, and as far as the core values go. So, do you separate with folks the difference between a value and a core value? Meaning, a value is something that you can use to make judgments, but if you have to go against it, it's not going to violate your being on the inside. And then a smaller subset of core values that you will not violate no matter what, and they are the ultimate guideline. Do you separate the two when you work with clients?
Yes, actually I do. Because what they do with that core value assessment is they go through and there's a process of narrowing it down, and eventually you wind up by the end of this assessment you wind up narrowing it down to basically three core values, that if you can stay within those three, if all the decisions you make are within those three core values, then you're generally going to be pretty happy with your decision. Sometimes you're going to wind up with a more favorable outcome. You may not like it necessarily, but sometimes making a decision, the hardest and toughest decisions are between good and better and bad and worse. It's easy to make a decision between good and bad. Of course you're going to make good, right? But good and better or bad and worse, when those are your decisions, sometimes they're not so easy to make. And that's where your core values will come in and help you at least pick the alternative that you can live with as a human being the most, that you can move forward with the most, that's going to bring you the best of all the potential outcomes.
Yeah, and that is so great. It's something that a lot of people might, people watching this video might be right now saying, well, I know my values. And I would challenge people that one of the advantages of working with Joe is to figure out your core values, because sometimes we believe our values, and we make decisions based on what we believe our values are, but we don't, like Joe said, we don't know what they are. Aren't really attuned with what they are or should be today. And we might be making a value-based judgment based on a non-core value, which is almost as dangerous as not knowing. Because if you have a non-core value that is guiding your judgment, a non-core value is something that it's not going to hurt you inside if you don't follow, but a core value will. So you really have to worry about getting to those core values. One of the challenges, Joe, and I think you and I have talked about this before, is part of the reason that people have such a difficult time in rediscovering their core values is because they're in this habitual thinking mode. In other words, they're in the habit of thinking one way.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.